I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, you're going to get a little more information about what's happening in a specific niche of the market with a pro from over 20 years, Cheryl Sprangler. So enjoy this conversation. Get your notepad out because you'll be a little surprised by the info, and I'll see you on the other side. There she is. Good morning.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Is your hair looking fantastic for the podcast today?
Yeah, I have to get up and get dressed and actually, no, I'm just kidding. I'm actually meeting up with a client after this, so it's good timing.
I mean, do we close more houses on good hair days? Because I think we do.
Definitely makes a difference for me, how I feel.
I mean, my confidence goes up on a good hair day. In fact, I told a lady her hair looked good the other day, and she said, well, it's day 2. And I'm like, I feel you, honey. It's always better on day 2 because day 1, it's just not going to listen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being willing to come on the show.
No, I really appreciate it. I actually really enjoyed listening to yesterday's podcast from Mackenzie, or I would say last week or whenever it was. That was really interesting to me. She was very interesting and had a really good perspective.
I mean, it's kind of nice to hear from people before you know them, so then we are maybe judging them a little less.
Yeah.
Who knew? So how long have you been in and around real estate?
I got licensed in 2002.
So you're 21 years. Your real estate business can drink now. Although if somebody's watching this in 2024, your business is obviously old enough to drink.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been around doing this as a full-time job since 2002.
That might be the best marketing idea I ever came up with that I did not implement, which was when my real estate business was 21 years old. I wanted to do a whole campaign around my business could drink, but then I didn't.
That's actually a good idea.
Anybody who's watching this, if your business is heading into the 21st year, I mean, take that idea, use it. I can't. And now Cheryl's aged past hers too. So you can use the idea that we no longer can, because that's the gift of real estate. It keeps on giving.
My daughter just turned 21. So yeah, all into the whole obsession over what can I do now that I'm 21? Yeah.
Did you take her out for her first beer?
We did. Yeah, she's in college. So
obviously it was the first. I mean, we obviously know she would never have broken a rule.
But we did do like a celebratory, her name actually is Cambria. So I bought her Cambria wine. And then we kind of did like a celebration glass at a restaurant. So it was pretty cool.
Wasn't there a Cambria car at some point? Was that a Volkswagen that had a Cambria model?
Oh, if there's a car named Cambria, I'm not aware of that. There's chocolates, there's wine, there's more than I thought when I came up, saw the name.
I mean, I remember the Cabriolet was real popular, but I think there was a Cambria. I'm going to have to look because I have a brain worm if I don't find out. Cambria.
Unless you're thinking Cabriolet.
No, that was a little too, that was
a, yeah, it's like a convertible.
A little convertible. Used cars for sales in Cambria, California.
That's where we came up with the name.
It's a Cambria brand car seat. We don't wish that on her quite yet. We'll give her a minute. Cambria Automobiles is made up of 3 brands. Oh, it's a British car company. Maybe I saw one on a vacation at some point or a speaking jaunt. Okay, so anyway, so you've been in the business since 2002. Why did you get into real estate and where'd you come from?
When I graduated high school, I went to be a court reporter. But then I realized that I just can't sit and just do that. It was boring and I wasn't good at spelling at the time. So anyway, the whole job of court reporting, the real job is the afterward, where you're considered a scopist, where you got to transcribe. But I got a degree in computer science and then an MBA, and I started Georgetown with telecommunications. So I was really wanting to just focus on telecom, computers, stuff like that. And I ended up getting a job in California and of company that was going IPO. And then I loved my job. I just found that I kind of like gravitated to sales and marketing. And then I got pregnant and I was like the one person who was like, I'm just going straight back to work. Like, I'm not like doing this whole stay home with the baby thing. And then after I saw him, I was like, I can't go back. I can't even work there. So for 13 months, I basically we moved back to Virginia, and I tried to kind of really scope out what I wanted to do. I did purposely choose this career. And I kind of interviewed people and was like, what's the worst part about being a real estate agent? Is it hard? And this one woman was like, don't do it. It's really hard. Most people don't run it like a business. You're going to find yourself in back taxes. I mean, I didn't realize at the time, like she was giving me the real lowdown of it is a challenging career, and I was like, well, then that means a lot of people are going to fail. So I'm going to do it. I'm like, if everyone is, if a large portion of them aren't taking it seriously, maybe not following through, treating it like a business, I'm like, I can do this. So it's pretty much been hardcore ever since.
Okay, so of all the people I've ever met in my entire life, and that's a pretty good list, you're the first person I've ever met who wanted to be a court reporter. All right, so why did you want? Why I have to ask, like, why were you watching Night Court and you saw a court reporter on there who was reading back over the notes, or what? Why in the world did you land on that? That's so interesting.
I mean, it's funny. When I was in high school, my FBLA teacher, she was like, you're not going to be good at business. And I was like, what? I mean, for the teacher to say that, it was so weird how a lot of times people say things and then you literally drives you to be, it wasn't like I was like, yeah, I am. I'm going to go start one. But I was really good at typing. I can type very fast, even now, probably over 100 words a minute. And, at a court reporter, you're typing like really 500 words a minute, but in shorthand. I know. And so that's what kind of got me started. I'm like, well, I can type really fast. I just need to learn this shorthand. And it's pretty cool. You get to hear all this, court cases. I'm very interested in like different stories. I wouldn't get bored. But then it was like, at the time, like now it's pretty automated. But then I realized the whole profession was very, I don't know, like sexist, because the woman court reporter sat in the front, shut up, type. And it was just like, I can't do that. I just can't do that for hours and hours and hours.
That's so funny. I mean, we hear that story a lot from people. Some random teacher in high school tells a teenager who is not got a complete frontal lobe, has no idea what's out there in the world, that you can't do X, Y, or Z. It's kind of wild that these declarative statements come out of anybody's mouth, especially about teenagers, because I mean,
who knows? Like
I
literally
didn't know
changed 5 careers.
Real estate back then because it's what my dad did. I didn't want to do any of this stuff that I've done, frankly, because teenager brain is different. Okay, so anyway, you landed in real estate, determined to not be a statistic of failure, which is, for those that are listening and viewing and you didn't really know, the rough stat has held steady for a long time. 85% of realtors quit within the first 2 years because of exactly what you're saying. They get in, they don't run it like a business. They don't understand how to do entrepreneur taxes. They're not thinking about the long-term play. And then they say, this is really hard, and they flash out. So I love that person gave you really good, honest feedback so that you'd know what you were facing and you could choose to face it instead of going into it blind and then getting blindsided. So in the 21 years you've been doing real estate, what's been the one thing you've learned that you wish she had told you in all of those other things? What's the one thing that you learned that, man, if I'd only known this, things would have been different somehow?
Well, I will say I've had a lot of failures in real estate and a lot of crash and burn low moments. And it just makes me want to help more real estate agents. But I would say, there was a moment, like I know I had young kids and I had 2 young kids, but there was a moment that I didn't take answering my phone seriously. And it's such a simple thing, but I remember going along, I'm like trying to get business. I did really well in the first few years, had a total crash in 2009. But I don't know what I was thinking, but I don't know. When you start, I see people do this right now. They just are not serious. Like, are you in business or are you not? And so I must not have answered my phone on a regular basis. But anyway, this message appears in my email. This was like maybe 2004, and 2 years after. 2 years after starting. And I was like, oh, this guy emailed me about wanting to list his home. So I call him up and he's like, I didn't even think, I don't know why that popped into my email, but he had called me like 12 months earlier. I'm not kidding. And I don't know what I was doing. I didn't answer my phone evidently. And somehow this email just kind of popped into my email. And I was like, I went back to the email and I'm like, oh my God, it was like 12 months. What am I thinking? Like, he literally answered the phone and he's like, yes, I did call you because of your marketing, but I sold with someone else because you never responded to me. I was like, that was the moment I was like, I am going to answer my phone. And I know people are like weird about you got to find life balance, but still respond back. Answer my phone. I was like this. And then so I just conversation with the guy and apologized that, I didn't respond back to him. And he's like, yeah, I found someone else. I actually called you a couple times and sent you an email. I was like, man, I don't know. And so now if I talk to new people, I'm like, I know whether they're taking their business seriously, whether if I can get a hold of them, when I try to refer people out, even like if never answer phone. So it was a wake up call for me.
Because it's the lost revenue, but then it's also that feeling in the pit of your stomach of, oh crap, my marketing worked. I did all the marketing, I did all the prep work, and it had an impact. And then failing to act took the result away. And I'm with you. It's kind of wild how many people get into sales and then don't want to talk to anybody. And the excuse I get, I'm too busy to answer the phone. Okay, no, you're not. You could answer it and say, I am busy. Let me call you right back. Unless, in a funeral, there's going to be instances. We know there's times not to answer the phone, but for a lot of people, they're not busy. They just don't want to.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, what if it's a scam, or what if I don't know the person? Okay, you don't know everybody you're ever going to serve. I don't know who my next past client's going to be. I should probably answer so I can talk to them.
Yeah, we do get a lot of spam, but like we still have to answer if you're doing ads and you've got Google calling.
Just hang up if it's a spam, or
I've implemented a really good mobile spam blockers. Verizon has a default one called Call Filter that you can download. But yeah, it's improved. But I would say the other thing would be just literally not overextending yourself on your prospecting methods, because there was a point where I was trying to do everything. Your referral, you're buying leads, you're marketing to this person, that person. It's like just consistency, follow through with one type of buyer or seller was probably the one thing that changed my business.
So talk to me about that a little bit. Which area did you land in? And was it because it was very good with results, or was it because it resonated with your personality type? Because obviously different kinds of marketing look different with different people putting it out there.
Well, between 2002 and 2008, I basically I implemented the Craig Proctor marketing system and did a lot of talk. Yeah. I really loved his stuff. He was very progressive. He had like the talking house, and it got me into like the voiceover thing. And that also helped me speak clearly, because then you realize how much slang you say. You don't pronunciate your words. But anyway, yeah, really obsessed with that now because it just started way back. But then I did really well doing that. After a 2-year start of not having a deal for 13 months, I did not have my first deal for 13 months. And so I learned to prospect. But in 2008 and 9, my husband and I, we got divorced, and we ended up, just make a long story short, we ended up having to short sale 2 of the 3 homes we had.
Oh, wow.
And during that, it was like, okay, well, the divorce happened, and we were like, well, I'll take ownership of the 2 homes that need to be short sold, and I'll let you keep the primary. We had this whole agreement. But that process was so, I would say, I don't even know how to describe it, but that's exactly why I got into it. It was degrading, made me feel like a piece of shit. My coworkers were like, oh, you bought a home you couldn't afford. Obviously there's a bunch of people who did things they shouldn't have. They got overextended. We couldn't find renters to pay. And long story, we couldn't, we had to do something. And I ended up negotiating that with the bank myself, figuring out the process. No one seemed to be available to help. Attorneys didn't, they would want to charge you a bunch of money. And so I was like thinking, first you get in this slump. And I actually took a job during that year with Clipper Magazine as a supplemental. People think real estate's hard. Go door to door trying to hard sell people magazines. Forget it. Like I came back to real estate like, this is freaking easy. It was very, very difficult. I still sold people, but after that experience, I ended up with a deficiency judgment myself, ended up declaring bankruptcy. Not afraid to say all this because there's a point where you're like, I will never be worthy. I will never come back from this. And I don't want to get all emotional on this.
You could pause. We can edit out this piece, or we could leave it in. That's up to you.
Leave it in. That's fine.
Because I love what you said, though. You used a word I have never heard used before talking about short sales, and that was how you felt degraded in the process. And I don't know that we've ever really had a lot of conversation about the emotion that people go through in that process. Because on the real estate side, we're looking at the numbers and we're like, it's going to take months, and there's all these process things. And even if you have a skilled agent who can handle the process, there is a huge emotional hit that you go through when you have to deal with that. And you were dealing with a double hit because it wasn't just the numbers on the house, it was the loss of your marriage. And so you're dealing with two wildly earth-shattering things. And then you have to come back from that. And when you get really low, I mean, what a gift you're able to give to people now by being vulnerable and telling them it's going to hit you emotionally. And I think the timing is pretty good right now, because I wonder how many we're going to see in the coming market, not general primary residences as much as the people who overextended on things like Airbnbs, because the share economy's gotten so big. I have heard from many Airbnb investors who have said, we're not getting the bookings we used to get. So they're questioning the cash flow and their ability to hold on to the property, which doesn't make them stupid. It doesn't make them bad investors. It means the market changed underneath them, which is exactly what happened to you. The market changed underneath you.
Yeah. So when I completed that, one was Bank of America and the other was another. But the point was that the whole process up to the end where I didn't get out of the deficiency judgment, and ended up having to do what I did.
Is there a class that you took on that's been good for you? I want to hear all about it.
Yes. Okay. So I am in the progress of taking your How to Dominate During a Recession class. And oh my gosh, it's just absolutely the best. It's really helpful to understand and to know what it was like during the other recession, and to how to proceed. But also at the same time, in the back of your mind, remembering that every recession is not the same. So you have to be prepared, but you have to be flexible. So understanding, educating during this downtime in our market, educate, getting on top of that, and being prepared. So, take as many classes as you can, get involved with your association. Just really, diving in has been, I'm so excited to get it completed. But it's a great class. Highly
I'm so glad that you're finding it helpful. And I love what you said, too, that every recession is different, because whether the media wants to call it one or not, we know the economy is not feeling perfect right now. And when things feel, that's when we do more education for ourselves so we can give that education to our clients. And so thank you for those kind words. I can't wait to get the full review when you finish it. And by the way, friends, if you follow the link here, we might have a discount code to get you involved in that class as well. So you can join Mackenzie and get some education in your yoga pants in the evenings while you clients during the day. So thank you for that kind recommendation. I'm so glad you're enjoying the class.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was like, I can't be the only one going through this. It doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent or whatever. Like, literally, I can't be the only one out there searching for what options do I have. I actually had more options than what I took. I didn't realize. And so I said, when I signed that last document, I was like, I am going to create a system that everyone who's in foreclosure will get some communication from someone, even if they choose not to respond. And I will make sure that every single person I help does not get a deficiency judgment. And I think that was in 2010, I Virginia Home Rescue was basically born. And that's what I run right now. Like, I run it separate because there's a lot of people, like I do regular sales, and people like to keep them separate because people who aren't in distress don't want to associate with a realtor who focuses only on that. So I keep Virginia Home Rescue separate from Cheryl Sprangler Real Estate. And people who get help know who I am. And people who don't just never see it. And basically, Virginia Home Rescue is me mailing every single person in Virginia who is going into foreclosure and giving them the options. And I've kind of tweaked this letter, but I wrote the letter that I mail them from my own wishing, what I wish someone would have sent to me. And I ended up hooking up with some attorneys, realizing that, there's a lot of people going through it that do declare bankruptcy. So obviously you need to relate, have an option for people. They don't want to always get out of their house. So it's like, okay, well, if you want to stay, here's your options. And I just created like a team. I say like movers, junk removal, not appraiser, but attorney, all the people that could help someone who's in a home that is in distress. And then I've been doing that for 12 years. Basically, I am so passionate about it. I will go beyond to the end, even if I'm not making money, to literally help someone. I have a story of someone that I just helped that is amazing. It's amazing if we have time.
Go for it. Tell us about it.
It actually was just this year. I probably mail, the only money I spend is mailings, is money on stamps. And I don't do bulk mailings because I actually sign each one and write something in each one. And for every probably, I'd say 130 mailings, I probably get 4 phone calls. And the same attorney that I've worked with for 12 years, which by the way was the one that helped me. And so believe it or not, you can go back to that person and not feel like you're like still in that place. And anyway. So I mail people who right now, okay, the difference between 2009 and 10 and 12 and now is that I was helping everyone then do short sales, and now everyone's just going to auction. And so if you want stats for yourself, actually I pulled them. What did I put? Well, 1 in every 1,000 homes in Virginia go into foreclosure. And
that's a current number?
That is like right now. Yes, right now. 1 in 1,000 homes in Virginia. Just to give you an example, like in North Carolina, 1 in 816 homes are right now in pre-foreclosure with a letter telling them they're going to auction. There's 300 people today, this morning in Charlotte that need a letter. They need help. Yes, I use ChatGPT, my son's ability to do coding. And we basically, every morning I wake up in my Excel spreadsheet is today's people who have been given pre-foreclosure notice. And so this morning I woke up, there's 92 people in Virginia and they need help. I'm going to mail them. That's my mentality. And so it's not like, what do I do to prospect? It's like, there are 92 people that need help and I'm going to mail them and I'm going to remail them. They get 3 letters. So
I mean, it's another reason right here. This stat you're giving right this second is the reason real estate information should not come from the mainstream media, because we've been told nonstop from all of the loudest microphones that there is no foreclosure problem. There is no anything going on. But as you and I both know, it almost doesn't matter what's happening in the economy. Somebody somewhere is having trouble with their house. I just had no idea it was that many because it's not my specialty. And you've chosen to make it your specialty because you have this heart for them not feeling ignored, lost, and not having a resource should they choose to take it. So when these 4 people reach out to you out of 130, and I love that you know your numbers so well, but then you still call it probably. So maybe don't say probably anymore when you know it's 4 out of 130. So when 4 people reach out to you, what's their response? Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they curious? Are they desperate for help? What is the general sense that you get from the person who responds?
Well, the 2 things that I mail them is a letter with all their options and to call or text me. And I actually started adding this like text back thing on there because I noticed people would rather text. So I get a lot of texts. But the second thing I add is literally a cash offer. So I have a number of investors, some who can close in 5 days, some who need 14 to 21 days. And basically, I figure up the current market value of their home and the what the investor actually would need to buy it for him to make money. So, I mean, I'm still thinking about profitability of like the business. And then I propose an offer and say, this is an offer. We have an offer for you. So they're normally calling to say, if they're willing to call, it's to say, I want to take the cash offer. And then I ask them 4 questions that basically qualify whether we can move forward. And then I move forward. So they're very upset. They're very upset. They're wanting the cash offer. They see a glimmer of hope. And their goal, different from 2010, is they're actually going to auction. Like they didn't put people in auction in 2010. They just helped them short sale. Now it's like, well, what's your foreclosure date? What's your auction date? And before I even mail anyone, I already know their foreclosure date. So yeah, they're calling to basically to get out of it. Now, some of them they can't, so probably out of 4, it actually probably 1 out of 8, I end up listing their home. And I either list it with an investor in hand, or I list it because, hey, you still have like 2 months you could sell. Yeah.
And that's where your ability to give them a really complete list of options is unique in the marketplace, because most of your competitors either don't know that this is going on or that there's options and aren't presenting the full array. And we do hear a lot of people fuss about the cash investors, but cash investors play a place in the market because there are some people who don't have the time and they don't have the ability to make the house market ready. I'd say what's unique about you is that you're talking to them about, here's what options you have. And I think it's definitely a superpower. But I interrupted you by asking questions. You were going to tell us a story about somebody.
Okay, well, the story, one of the letters went out to someone in Front Royal. I've been wanting her to get on a podcast, and I think she will eventually. And she was going to auction. She had about a month. And I had a locked up investor attorney ready to buy her property. And it was a good, like, in our mailing, we make sure that the fair market value of the home, that there's at least $80,000 or more in equity compared to what they owe. So every single person I mail actually is a potential, like, make money for an investor. So she had $150,000 difference in what the market value was versus what she owed. She called and she's like, I need to take this deal. Her circumstance was divorce. Her husband actually is crazy situation with her. I don't get into the personal stories. That's another thing. Like, even though I'm all heartfelt and everything, everyone has a story. So I don't get all emotionally involved, but sometimes I'm like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to help that person. So what happened, we do the 4 things that are needed right before, in order to close. And I'd say a week and a half before her auction date, we did a bring down report on the property, which basically tells us if there's any tax liens or unknown liens. And there was a second lien of $25,000 that the husband had forged her signature and took out a second mortgage that she didn't know about. So when this came back, the current investor, who I was counting on, obviously, because now at this point I've known her whole story, and I'm like, okay, we're just going to help this woman. She's literally going to be homeless with her 2 adult boy children. And he's like, I'm out. I'm not buying a property. I'm like, what? It's 25,000. You're 135 different. You're going to lose a little bit, but I mean, you're still going to make like 70,000 when you rehab it. And he's like, no, I'm out. And I'm like, so this person, my son actually, who helps me run these stats, automates. He's like my automate guy. Like, can you just do this now? He's like, well, it's just not going to work out. I'm like, so then the heart of me comes out, and I'm like, no. And I didn't have another guy ready or girl ready, investor. So I literally went on Facebook. So everyone else is like, well, that's not going to work. Let's go move on to someone else. Went out to Facebook, joined literally 10 of the top wholesale groups and then I put together this thing about the property, the current market value, what they can make. And I just communicated for 36 hours straight. I'm not kidding. Until I found this guy who's now my new cash guy. And he was like, this looks amazing. And also, by the way, you're the first person that's given me like everything. Like when real estate agents say, hey, I've got a deal for you, be totally transparent and like give all the information. Because he's like, this is okay, you gave me everything I needed. Let me get the guy ended up closing. Then that's a commission, right? I mean, yes, obviously I want to make money on this, but also 2 days before her auction date, we close. And then I know I'm like, so now it's like, well, where are you going to go? I always ask that first. Well, she was going to go move in with her mother, which has been a complete, absolute disaster. Now she's still looking at homelessness today, up until today. This is a good time for this podcast. And we ended up, he rehabbed it and we put it back on the market. And now, so that's a second sale, right? Because now I'm helping him sell it. And then, long story short, this woman who we saved from foreclosure, moved in with her mother, had a terrible situation. She's now renting because the guy who bought the property like 2 weeks ago, who's closing today, the guy who bought the property is a long-term investor looking for a renter. So she's literally got a completely rehabbed home and she's moving back into the home that she almost got kicked out of. I'm getting chills telling the story because I was like, there was a point where I was like, you know, did you find a place? Your mother's kicking you out now. You're still gonna be homeless with 2 adult children. And it turned, and so there's this inner knowing sometimes where you're like, I'm literally going to help this woman get back into this home. So we had all these fall throughs on people who wanted to buy the property. And it turned out long-term investor looking for a long-term renter, gave her information. He approved it. She moves in January 1. So she's going to move back into her house.
And the kids get to move back into the house that they know too.
That they grew up in. And it's renovated. And it's in better shape. And she doesn't have to be responsible for the financial aspect of fixing things. So
she's got to have this enormous amount of relief right now that it's not a burden and she can go home and make it work.
Yeah, she's so happy. I mean, people think, you know, I don't know. Sometimes people think going after foreclosures like chasing ambulance chaser type thing. You're literally saving them from being homeless. And in this case, yes, she sold her home for a lot less than if you would have just put it on the market, called earlier and like reached out earlier to someone. But
you can't change that. You helped her make the best out of the scenario as it stood when you found it.
Yeah, she's so grateful. You will find everyone is grateful if you're coming from a place of, I'm really trying to help you. I'm not just, let me see if every single person that calls, I can sell their home no matter what. I mean, if that's not their goal, that's not what we do. So yeah, I mean, super happy today. Just can't believe it. Amazing.
I mean, it's a whole, what would have happened to all of the people involved without you, the realtor? The seller would not have had, I don't know there's anybody else on the planet except for a realtor like you who will use the internet and burn it up on text to find an investor. And let's just be honest, a lot of agents would have just thrown their hands up and said, oh, well, you're going to go to auction, good luck, and then walked away. Without any agent, it would have gone away. And then because you stepped in, the investor also got something where he was able to make a fair profit. And because he was able to make a fair profit, you found another buyer who's able to provide a rooftop. And it kind of goes to the heart of, in real estate, of course, we're portrayed so negatively, but at the core of it, we're housing providers of all types, whether you're the housing provider for the homeowner or the renter or the investor. And oh my gosh, everybody wins in this scenario, except maybe the ex-husband who took out that forged lien. I don't think he should get the best.
I think she's going to sue him later because there was something in the agreement about how he had
judging from afar, but that's pretty daggum awful.
Yeah.
I'm going to judge him.
Yeah, you come up with a lot. I mean, right now I would say 25% of all the people being auctioned off, their homes being auctioned, are because of forbearance during COVID. Yeah. And I would say uptick is reverse mortgages. But a forbearance seems to be just every third person is like, I was in a forbearance and it expired. Well, there's so many things like, yeah, I mean, they should have opened their mail. The thing is, like, I never got mail from my bank, but it's like, but you got my mail. So you're getting your mail. So I don't fall into that either. Like, I already know when you're in massive distress, you tend to avoid all communication. But you open the one that looks like someone can help you.
Which maybe the banks should learn from you and design their mailing to look like they want to help if we get it opened up.
Yeah. I write something on the outside of the envelope. I do a little asterisk and I write offer enclosed inside.
Oh, sorry. Let me look at my Christmas cards that I've got. Nothing written on these. They're not as interesting to me. These are printed address labels. That's a real address. I'm going to open that one first. Oh, and this one has old person writing on it. I can always tell by old person writing. So
this is cursive.
It's cursive and it's kind of shaky. And I think, well, my grandmother wrote like that. The older she got, the shakier her handwriting got. She didn't even have Parkinson's. It was just a control thing. But I think it's a message there too. Because I bet I'm not the only person who looks at Christmas cards this way, where you're going to rank and prioritize the handwritten over the.
I mean, it is true. You get a card and it's like a typed newsletter, and I tend to I stick it on the fridge and maybe read it later. I hate to say that, but yeah.
Read a sentence while you're getting your coffee creamer in the morning, and you might read a little more when you go get a snack. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, Cheryl, if somebody wants to reach out to you, and let's say they're a real estate professional, they'd like to learn more about your systems and your offerings, or they're a consumer that wants to talk to somebody who actually knows what the options are, what's the best way for people to find one of the versions of Cheryl Sprangler?
I mean, pretty much CherylSpranglerTeam.com is the site. From there, people can contact me for anything. Yeah, CherylSpranglerTeam.com. I mean, what I market in social media that is not, it's VirginiaHomeRescue.com, but that's generally only on ads in Google and people who click. So yeah, CherylSpranglerTeam.com.
Okay, so friends, that will be in the contact notes for this episode, and highly recommend if you're a professional realtor who's feeling a call towards helping people in this specific space, you may want to talk to Cheryl and not create the process from new when she's got experience and can help you with that. Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on the show and frankly being vulnerable with us so that people can know that that's absolutely the space where you can give the most. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I loved being on.
All right, people, say something nice about Cheryl down in the comments. I know you're sending her virtual hugs for watching her get choked up when she's trying to be all tough and stuff. Didn't work. Make sure you subscribe for more, and we'll see you next time over here on Crazy Shit in Real Estate.
All right, bye.
So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available on all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.